So, hello again and welcome to AssemblyTV 2011. We've just seen the Fast Graphics competition, which has been on the big screen here at Assembly. If you're also watching online, if you'd like to send us an email at some point, you can send an email to me. My name is matthew.walster@assemblytv.net. So, it was quite a long Fast Graphics competition with some very interesting entries. Here to discuss them with me, I have two friends, both from the same group, I believe. Is that right? Yep. Yes. So, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself? What's your name and which group are you from?
Well, hello, I'm Sagubi from HBC. This year I only got to do this fast graphics entry. We tried to make a big thing, but it didn't work out really well. But yeah, I do 3D graphics and 2D graphics sometimes.
Super,
yeah.
Very good to hear it. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ara from same group.
Mm-hmm.
And well, all my entries failed this year. I didn't manage to actually submit anything.
Okay, well, let's have a look through. So you're both very much into the, I believe your group has previously entered the short film competition several times.
Pre-render stuff.
Yeah, and it's always been quite superior to many of the other entries, let's put it that way. So it'd be very interesting to get your input on this. Now, we have in front of us the graphics entries. Because we've got a bit of time, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the entries one by one. So the first one, we've got end of time, which, if I was to tell you what Fast Graphics was about, rather than saying an example of it, I would say something like this. This is something that seems a little rushed, is that fair to say?
Yeah, fair to say.
And the Fast Graphics, it's also good for that you need to have a simple idea.
Yeah.
And you need to do it in the time you have. So I think this is a good example of a simple idea, which is manageable in the idea sense.
Okay.
Well,
so it very quickly goes on. Now, I actually missed the very beginning of the competition. I only saw it when this came on. Was the theme announced to the audience? I didn't notice.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
The theme was last minute, if I remember. Yeah.
Super. Okay. Well, if we go across, we've got entry 2, which is slipping away. Now, when we look at it, it's almost like a chalkboard type thing. What do you call it? With the black paper that you use. It's a very interesting way of drawing, especially for a Fast Graphics thing. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on this particular entry.
Yeah, some of my friends commented that this was a bit more like an arty picture, maybe. So I must admit that I didn't really fully get the idea behind this one, but I guess I'm sure there must be something.
It's very very sketch-like. I was trying to figure out slightly what the theme had to do with this image, but it's a bit tenuous, I don't know. So if we carry on, we can go on to the third entry, last minute morning routine.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Nope.
Were you in the army?
Yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot the finisher in the army, aren't they? So
yeah, a few entries had this an army theme, because in the army they say minuutti, which is 1 minute, and they mean that you have 1 minute time to do whatever you need to do before the next activity.
Ah, right,
so
okay.
I think that's the main reason behind these army themes.
So that's suddenly, there's an entry later on called minuutti.
Yeah.
And I suddenly understand what it means. Right, okay. Suddenly the ignorant foreigner knows a bit more about the Finnish culture. Okay then, so we've now got last minute of freedom. MS Paint, which doesn't normally signify what we see in a competition. Yeah. But the crowd seem to enjoy this one. I wonder why.
Yeah, I respect the choice of software because it's so hardcore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's well executed. You know, this pixel art kind of style. It's not. Well, there's a little bit of the spray paint.
Yeah.
Which is usually used. Not very little.
It does tend to be with MS Paint, because you don't have any complex tools. You do tend to have to rush things, but I think it's actually rather well done to say it is a
not bad,
an MS Paint thing. Okay, we're going to quickly move on now to the one I was mentioning before. So now that you've explained it to me, literally somebody would shout, "You got 1 minute," and you'd have to drop everything. No, that's not the best phrase to use, but yeah. Okay. Any thoughts about this particular one?
I think the character tried too hard to like manage it in the 1 minute.
Well, the expression is really good.
The actual composition of it, it seems to almost be in the style of more like an oil painting or a watercolour or something. I wouldn't normally expect something from that in a fast graphics competition, but it seems to be well done.
I like the perspective, it really gives something more to this image. Well chosen.
Very good. Okay, so we now have every time I pronounce the Finnish words, I get an email from somebody saying, "You're rubbish." So if we just have a look at the entry. Now, I didn't realise up until just before the competition you could submit photos.
Ah, okay.
That's obviously not drawn. So that was kind of interesting to me. Now, I don't know. Something to think about. Generally, I find if somebody's going to enter with a photo, they tend to submit 5 or 6 entries. So I imagine when it comes to the jury, they normally have to knock out quite a few of them. But so it's an interesting entry. I can't imagine it scoring particularly highly.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the voter. If you are into this kind of humor, then it might be.
I suppose. Okay. Booze tasking fail about an event we're not allowed to talk about on AssemblyTV, but if we look at it, there's the forbidden word on the screen, which we're not allowed to talk about at Assembly. But it's obvious that this is a demo scener who has been enjoying themselves a bit. Once again, this kind of watercolour effect, which seems to be quite popular this year.
Maybe it's also an effect related to the thing that's happening.
Quite possibly. Hadn't considered that, but yeah.
A bit blurry. Not
quite
bad.
a few painting softwares have that these days.
Yes. Yeah.
Watercolor effect, so it's.
So it's a very, very easy way of just quickly sketching something if you've got restricted time.
Yeah, the colors blend together nicely. It's.
Was this done on open canvas or was it?
This was done on Photoshop.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Red End 3ds Max Photoshop. So very unusual to get some kind of 3D. Let's say sprite. Then it's not a sprite. 3D model inside one of these. Now.
Well, there's lots of people, and it must have been a big job to like position all those so that they don't look like clones.
Well, they actually are clones.
You see, somebody said to me the exact opposite. They said that is the easiest one to create. They could have created it in less than half an hour.
Oh, well.
Now, the reason why is because they immediately said, look on the left-hand side. And you can't see this on the screen, but on the far left-hand side, there are 3 models looking exactly the same. And if you look around, the same models do repeat. So there's only 4 or 5 positions.
Yeah.
But because of the way they've layered it, it does give the impression. Now, they all seem to be going for the central button. If you also notice, some of them aren't facing in the same direction. So,
yeah.
That's an interesting concept. Just how that goes on. The wheels have stopped turning. Now, Blender, if we can take a brief segue from this, to me it's come on leaps and bounds in the past few years. It's still a 3D modeler, but you can do an entire project from beginning to end. There's been the peach project, the orange project for what was it called? Your 3D animations, the ones with
or the bunnies, Big Buck Bunny.
No, the one before that. What was it called? Elephant's.
Elephant's Dream.
Yeah, and then it went on to Big Buck Bunny, and then the latest one, Sig whatever.
Synth. Yeah. I think they are progressing nicely, although it's still not a soft piece of software that you could use in a like commercial, very big project. But they are improving all the time, I think.
But they seem to be more taking it that everything should be done in the same package, so you do everything from your, not just your construction of your scenes, but also your movie editing and stuff all in one package, as opposed to a traditional movie style role, which is more of a create scenes, import it into 30 different projects, and then render it into something that can be then just put into Final Cut Pro or something. Although it can be put in Final Cut.
It's useful to be able to do stuff in the same program, but sometimes you can't be a good enough program if you divide yourself into many different sub-programs. Although, considering open source software, I think the few modules that are in Blender are like, in quality-wise, they are very good quality in compared to the open source scene generally.
Because there's I believe there's a Blender booth around the corner, or maybe I think it's renderfarm.fi around the corner, so that people who are interested in Blender but don't have the computational power to be able to render these scenes can farm it out to a number of computers and get it back same day, pretty much. So there is a community around it. If I continue on to the actual Blender scene, now this is interesting, because when it was on the big screen, I couldn't see the amount of detail we have here. If anything, it seemed almost drawn when it was on the big screen to me. Yet here, it seems, I don't know, slightly more real. I'm talking rubbish here now, of course. But
I can't comment on this image.
Oh, you can't comment on this one. So just between us two, the layout and composition of it is something that it typifies to me what has come on in the last 15 years in terms of 3D modelling, in that before everything tends to be cartoony, and this almost, especially when you see it on the big screen, it seems more real. It seems as though it's a photo, even though it's not. So,
well, that's partly because the cycles, the render engine used in this is practically an unbiased engine.
Yes.
So it traces rays and doesn't do any kind of interpolation or other stuff.
So the reason why we can't discuss it with our friend here is because it is in fact his thing, and AssemblyTV will say that if you're on the jury, you can't comment on your own one, and likewise if you're on AssemblyTV, you can't comment on your own production. So we'll just assume it's very, very good.
Well, I will note one thing. I like the theme because this kind of a stopped time. All the others are kind of a moment of impact. Something is happening right now. This is kind of a eternal 1 minute.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
It's kind of stopped there, static compared to the others. Kind of a unique in that way.
Especially with the pendulum, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of a just
as it brings itself in. Okay. Just moving on for a second, then we go on to Open Canvas. Now, this up until once again today, I seem to be doing all my research today. I hadn't heard of Open Canvas. It seems to be the new thing to use, I suppose, from the open world.
Well, it's not really new.
No, but
it's.
I haven't really seen it inside of Graphics Compose before.
Yeah, it's. I don't actually know where it's developed. I would assume Japan. It's fairly old and not very widely used or known.
Okay.
There are a few people who like the painterly look of it.
Right.
But it's not, you can't really do any kind of photo editing in it. It's just purely painting, kind of a watercolor-like effects.
And then you retouch it using GIMP or
most likely.
Okay. So if you actually look at the image, pretty much what you've just described is that image, right? It's been created and then I'm going to say Photoshop. That's giving unfair remarks to Photoshop, but yeah, it's an interesting image. The only way they seem to have got in the last minute, forgive me if I'm completely wrong, but it's almost like they have drawn this and then put in the stopwatch afterwards, as though it's been prepared before the event.
Well, it could be. Well, was there something done in GIMP?
This was Open Canvas and GIMP.
Yeah.
So
I would guess that might be done in GIMP because Open Canvas is not very good with sharp lines and stuff. It does very good this kind of a soft blending of colors.
And so the only thing I can think of is that if it was done at the party place, they were thinking of Alice in Wonderland, with the whole, you know, Mad Hatter and all that. So. Anyway, moving on. We have self-portrait tablet PC. Now, I know a lot of people don't like tablets. They seem to think that when I mean tablets, I mean a tablet PC where you draw actually onto the screen.
Yeah.
They say it hasn't got enough fidelity, enough precision to be able to get the most out of something versus using a graphics tablet separate where you can actually then control the screen and zoom in and whatever. So I'm just wondering, when you compare it to that, does that say that is somebody?
I guess it's all about what you need. If you need like professional grade precision and have to do little details, then you might have to consider something else like a computer and a drawing tablet. But sketching, fast works, why not?
I suppose. It looks good anyway, so
yeah, for an hour and a half.
Absolutely,
combo.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume the deadline was at 22 last night. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But, I'd be quite happy having that on my screen for a while. Killer called Fernando. Photoshop drawing. Now, when you noticed that, I hadn't seen the name of the entry. So when it came up afterwards of reminding everybody what the name was, I was going to think that was Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So it very much was something that I didn't understand how the theme related to it.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe me too. Does the name imply some meaning in, I don't know, pop culture reference or something? Because
I don't recognize anything.
Because, well,
all I know about Fernando is an old ABBA song. So, showing my age.
well, it's not about drawing. Not very like cartoony comic book style. Not bad. Is that guy wearing pants or not? It's just
I was just wondering the same, but if you notice the colour of his legs as well, I think he's wearing stockings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is an interesting way of doing it. Can't have for better or for worse. Quite why Ubuntu was put in there, because you could use that stack on Windows as well. I think somebody's just bragging there.
Well,
now that's obviously being put through a 3D model or something. But I could imagine back years and years ago, somebody made something called Real Wild. I don't know if you remember. It was a short film back when it was part of the Real Wild thing, and it was demo scene effects being put into the real world. So when you had a cube of bread, and when it was textured, they put tomatoes and cheese on it and whatever.
Yeah.
And when it was dangling from a string with something stuck onto it, I thought that was that. I thought somebody had literally just dangled it on. And when somebody said, "Oh, it's Blender," I was like, I was a little bit disappointed in that, you know,
it's
a
not
bit too
real.
easy for me. But maybe the artistic style was quite nice. I don't know. I think it was a bit rushed. I don't know. It's just my
It's
opinion.
very simplistic.
Yeah.
It's not very much to it.
Simple idea, okay execution or good execution. I like the lights that come from the sides.
Yeah, the light source to me, the light source is supposed to be on one side on a planet, and it's almost as though there was a...
You mean that's not realistic?
No, we're going for realism in this competition, aren't we? So we have got 21 entries, so we're only up to 14. Now, if I go on to this one did have a bit of reaction from the crowd. It has been obviously painstakingly put together by somebody who really kind of enjoyed doing this. They put lots of effort in. Not sure if it's going to rank highly, but I think it will be very deserved if it did. What's your opinions on this? It is a very artistic entry as opposed to anything else.
And well, I think it goes well with the name of the title of the picture.
Go on then. What does that
Because like, phew, the next boat will come after 2 weeks.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's
I would not have guessed that.
I think it's a nice, like, humoristic-ish take on the subject matter.
Okay.
It's a good idea. and not bad execution. Although I wish that there was a little bit more, maybe saturation or something. So it's so gloomy.
It does seem a bit washed out in some places and lacking in colour.
But well, if that's the artist's personal style,
well, yeah,
then
absolutely.
why not?
I personally would have ranked this among my favourite in the competition. So, although I'm not supposed to steer the competition in any way. So coming next, Fragile Landing in Photoshop. Reminds me of the old cartoons like Calvin and Hobbes and stuff. It's a very cartoony style application. Any particular comments about this? Or?
Well, on the big screen, all the blue sky was just washed out white. So all I saw was the hatching there.
I mean, even here, I mean, if we look behind us, I mean, it's particularly very light blue there, but on here, you can see the blue. If you were on the big screen, like you say, it was almost a kind of creamy white. You couldn't really distinguish it from the clouds. Yeah. But that's something you have to live with, unfortunately. The big screen, there's not much you can do about that. But,
it's a great idea. It made me laugh during the competition.
Yeah.
It's very.
Okay.
Very nice.
So as we come up to Pompelli.
This was another one that suffered on the screen. The white highlight was just pure white. Yes. You couldn't see it.
I was going to say exactly the same. This is the first time I've seen it and can actually see the detail in the reflection.
Yeah. So, you can actually see what time is it. And yes, it's the last minute.
So it is, yeah, last minute to 5. Last minute to 5?
Yep.
Okay. 5 o'clock must mean something in someone. Okay. This is from the Nyan Cats generation, I believe.
Well, I like it.
Yeah.
Very nice combination of colors. And maybe it would need a bit more. I don't know if it's again the effect that it looks different on the screen, but a little bit more dark areas or contrast or something. It in the central area, just in front of his mouth where it goes all purple. I don't know why, but it even though there is quite a lot of detail in the whatever you want to call that, I'm going to call it a cat. Organism.
Yeah, organism. Okay, fair enough. I don't know. It just seems to wash it out slightly, as though there's plenty of detail around the eye in the dragon, as I'm going to call it, and yet there isn't maybe enough detail in the small cat-like creature. I don't know. It just seemed a bit unfinished, but I suppose that's the whole point of fast graphics. You have to finish in the time. But, it's a nice entry.
Does it actually hold up something?
Looks like an acorn, or
oh, right.
Or maybe
it's just the same color as his body, so I didn't actually distinguish it as a separate object.
Ah, okay. Fair enough. If we move on, Last Flight. Now, that seems to me to be very much a kind of vector art type thing. There's very sharp edges on things, and it's. Does it say what it was made in? No, it wasn't.
Well.
If you took out the flying creature in the centre, I would have very much liked that as a wallpaper for my computer. I just happen to really like that sunset effect.
Yeah, the reflections on the ocean are made very nicely, I think.
They are indeed, yeah.
And it looks like it almost really painted on some real canvas. That part of the picture.
Put a lot of effort into it. I do really like it, but once again, not really seeing the theme unless perhaps it's about to sweep up or something. I don't know. But, obviously, the jury enjoyed it, so we got through, and I'm very grateful for it. Now, we get to the last 3, and I think it's fair to say the quality jumps a little. So, Last Minute on Earth.
Yeah, this one.
The detail on this has certainly been ramped up, and if we if we continue on down it.
Was this made in art rage or something? One of the entries was
very particularly nice.
Looks very like it tries to imitate the brush strokes very well.
Absolutely. Okay, now we're going to have to quickly skip through these two because we're very short on time, unfortunately.
Right.
But Assembly Express.
Yeah.
Very quick comments on it. Very good.
I like it very much. The fact that he uses like 100% opacity brush strokes is great. I like it.
Simply amazing for hour and a half.
Absolutely.
That too.
Absolutely. And once again, as I say, I'm very sorry we're going to have to be very quick with this, but Scorched Earth, I think we can very much say that that one, if that doesn't come in the top 2, I think that's going to be a shame. I think it's a very nice image indeed. So I'm sorry for having to rush through that last one. That's the Fast Graphics competition from Assembly Summer 2011. I'd like to thank you both for coming onto the show. It's been very good hearing your input. If you stick around, we've got very many other things coming on today. The main competition starts at tomorrow, from the graphics, from the music, from the 4K, 6.4K, full demo, and of course the old school competitions. If you want to find out any more information about Assembly, it's assembly.org, and anything about our TV show, assemblytv.net. Maybe if you'd like to watch it online, you can go to assemblytv.net. Apart from that, I've been Matthew Wolster. You've just watched the Fast Graphics Compostudio, and now on to our regularly scheduled programming. Thank you very much.